Hello, Motorrad World fans, and welcome to this live chat talking MotoGP from the recent round of the MotoGP World Championship held at the stunning Jerez circuit, one of the most iconic MotoGP races. It's one of the best kind of races you could possibly go to. I was lucky enough to do my first ever MotoGP Jerez experience last year, and it was phenomenal. This year looked even better. Over 173,000 people over the whole weekend. So yeah, certainly a nice busy one, a very, very nice busy one. And the racing out on track did not disappoint. So yeah, welcome to our YouTube channel. We're going to go out on our YouTube channel going forward because yeah, it's just in terms of trying to generate some income and stuff, it'll be a little bit easier to go through YouTube and try and pick up the numbers through there rather than Facebook. So thank you to everyone for joining already. See a lot of people joined early with some comments. So yeah, hello and welcome. Nicole Briat, Brink Heinemann, Chris Zeely, John McLaughlin, Renal Slubbert, Werner van der Spey. Yeah, what an awesome racing weekend, no doubt about that. Yvonne Pretorius, Warwick Evans. Evening, Rob. I think some people are worried after this weekend. They certainly are. They certainly are. And it's a lot of people within that MotoGP paddock. There's no doubt about that. Daryl Bryce, Yanni Stander, Junaid Smith. Hello, how's it, Robbo? Lots of love from Boxburg. Want to say a massive thank you for all the wonderful information you put out. Always such a pleasure to tune in. That's from Jaden, Sneyman, Dion Lemon, Vickers Alberts, JP Sviek, I hope I said that right, Vessel Kruger, Jonathan Murphy, Joe De Beer, Jonathan Borg, one of our kind of MotoGP insiders. He really helps with some really useful information coming out of the paddock, and it's a good solid information. So go check out his Facebook page. It's MotoGP News. Really reliable source coming from Jonathan Borg there. Jonathan Murphy, Joe De Beer, as I said already. Ronaldo Polton. Evening, Rob. What a Monday evening. Yeah, it makes doing this job a lot easier when you have race weekends like the one we just had now. Happy to say here in the UK, it's beautiful, like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. This time is when it's the hottest. Took the kids to a park, to like a Gruffalo forest walk thing, and a Zog kind of adventure thing where you got to walk around and do all these things. And it was beautiful, but a little bit of rain, and then it heats up a bit, then it's cold, and it comes to the evening and it's like beautiful sunshine. It looks like it's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, glad the sun's starting to come out here in the UK. Mariska Hutchinson, Sven Grunner, how's it, Rob? YouTube is a better platform anyways. Yeah, I've had a lot of people just say, can we switch it to the YouTube platform? So yeah, we'll take it there from now, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have good success with this. Marius Dixon, hi there from Cape Town. Anton Smith, hello, Rob. Great weekend for the boys in orange. Mariska Hutchinson, what a weekend. Brad, Jack, KTM's, Fabio's penalty, and Riche. Let's get chatting. Mariska, you are absolutely right. Let's get chatting. Unfortunately, my best friend in the entire world, Mr. Sheridan Moraes, messaged me about half an hour ago saying he couldn't watch the racing. It was his little one's 2-year-old birthday. So happy birthday to you, Parker Moraes, little Parker. Just very sad that we couldn't be there to celebrate beautiful little girl's birthday. So yeah, shares, everyone knows when you have kids parties, you can't do anything else on the weekend. So yeah, sadly, Shez won't be joining. So it's going to be myself solo tonight, but I have all of you to help keep the show very entertaining. So yeah, let's get chatting. Throw those comments in, any talking points that you have. Get going. We've got Jonathan Borg. We'll hopefully have Stephen Berry, Travis Besson, and some of our other top kind of MotoGP insiders on the side to help answer some questions that I don't maybe get to. Dustin Delaporte, hey Uncle Rob, how's it from a fellow Safa living in the UK, trying to enjoy some sunshine? Yeah, it's great. Nice little bit of sunshine lately. Still the rain. It's going to happen when you wake up and you leave the house. You take a raincoat and you take wellies and you take an umbrella and you take it all, no matter what the weather's doing at that moment. you always prepare yourself. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to start off with the news before the race weekend even started. The big news, of course, is Marc Marquez. I'm not going to harp on too much about it because it can just spiral out of control. Anything to do with Marc Marquez these days just does seem to do that. It just spirals out of control. And yeah, I'm a little bit upset with the amount of hate speech that goes on, or just hate references, just pure hate for Marc Marquez that goes out on social media. It's sad in a way. There shouldn't be that much hate for any person. To be honest, yeah, I know you don't have to be a fan of him, and he's not your cup of tea. What happened with him and Rossi, and yes, he is very aggressive and but yes, I'm just so surprised with the amount of hatred that's out there for Marc Marquez, and it's a shame because he's a superstar. He's done a lot for the sport. He's a true world champion in my eyes. I'm a fan of his. Of course, when he does silly things like the Miguel Oliveira incident at Portimao, still a fan, but Marc Marquez, what were you doing? Wake up. But yeah, a little bit disappointed with all the hatred. But before the race weekend even started, a lot of news kind of came through it. A really weird situation, and we as Motor Rider World maybe jumped the gun a little bit in terms of this big news that didn't really surface after everything that went out. But MotoGP and Dorna called a special press conference for Marc Marquez on the Thursday or the Wednesday at Jerez at 2 p.m. and it was going out, special conference. Now, when a special conference is called, it's going to be something. It's retirement. It's, the last special conference he did was at Mugello last year, where he announced that he was taking time off to fully recover and get his mental and physical fitness up a bit more. So we were waiting for this. On top of that, Marc Marquez changed his Instagram status from HRC MotoGP rider to MotoGP rider. And this is for a fact it changed. I know a lot of reports out there saying it didn't, and a lot of reports saying it did. I know for a fact. I follow all of them, and I've seen on Marc Marquez's Instagram that it was an HRC MotoGP rider, changed to MotoGP rider. Then about an hour later, it changed from a special press conference to a presser, which is just a normal press conference, a little bit of news update on his injury, and it was moved to 3:00. Okay, so it's not the special press conference anymore. And then a couple of minutes later, his status was changed to MotoGP rider with Repsol, Honda, HRC, and all the other jargon. So yeah, we kind of jumped on and went, geez, well, a special press conference, he's changed the status, what's going on? Is it going to be an announcement of retirement? Is he going to be leaving? And that's where I noticed a lot of these hate comments towards towards Marc Marquez. And that kind of upset me. But yeah, then it turned out to actually be nothing. It was just an injury update. But I don't know. Was there this blow up with Marc Marquez and Honda? And, he reacted and it was going to be this big thing. And, he called Honda's bluff, and Honda kind of, was there a bigger situation that was kind of just calmed down in the end? We'll never know. But it is sad with Marc Marquez. It is. I don't like seeing the hatred. I don't like seeing Marc on the sidelines. I'd much rather have him, on track competing. Whether you love him or hate him, I think MotoGP is more exciting with him there. I've said it time and time again. So at the moment, it was an injury update. He had 3 doctors tell him, don't ride. You'll do more injury. You'll do more damage. He's going to save himself for Le Mans. My worry is that he's damaged goods now. What is an extra week and a half, 2 weeks going to take 3 doctors telling you that if you crash again, you're going to damage, I think he's damaged goods, and how will that affect him mentally to be able to seriously commit, especially with all the abuse that he's been getting on social media. Knowing that the Honda package isn't there, we're going to talk about Honda, a little bit later in the show. Another disgusting weekend for Honda. It was embarrassing, the weekend. I mean, their shining light was Taka Nakagami. I think he was in 9th place or 10th place or something. I mean, Alex Rins just shows you, the cutthroat business that is MotoGP. Alex Rins, Kota on top of the world, fantastic. Woohoo! He's Honda's blue-eyed boy. He's the way forward. qualified 18th, crashed out of the race, did nothing. Jean Mir crashed again out of both the sprint and the main race. While, you're not crashing out of top 10s or top 5s, you're crashing out of 17th and 18th and 16th places. It's just a terrible situation. But anyway, they need Marc Marquez back desperately. Marc Marquez's championship for this year is gone. It was supposed to be the year that he was going to challenge again, albeit, pushing hard and overriding a Honda again, but it's gone. And yeah, will we ever see, a true reflection of Marc Marquez back in MotoGP? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think those times are gone. I think MotoGP has, while he's taken all this time off, it's just progressed. KTM is a big talking point from this weekend. That's going to be our major talking point, I'm sure, of the show. And Marc Marquez must be sitting at home, and he kind of put to bed all the demons of last year, all the mental problems, the not sleeping and all that, and the injuries. And I think it's probably coming back to haunt him now. I think that talk of retirement must be happening more often than not now in that Marquez household. You watch the Amazon Prime documentary with Marc Marquez, where his granddad's just saying, just retire. You've got the money. You've got nothing else to prove. Retire. And I don't know. How many more of these kind of things will it take before Marc Marquez hangs up? Jonathan Borg, he was told by his doctors that the injury will take 6 to 8 months. He knew he wouldn't make it for the SGP from the beginning, and I sent you this a while back. Yeah, Jonathan did send it back, but these riders. I mean, even Darren Binder, he was another rider that unfortunately missed the Jerez weekend. Tried to pass the fitness test, didn't pass it, and Abe Ashanini passed the fitness test. Lasted basically Friday. Just MotoGP is just at another level now. Unless you are 98% fit, you can't go. You just cannot. You're wasting your time. You are wasting your time to go and try and compete. 6 to 8 weeks, not 6 to 8 months, Jonathan. Yeah, sorry, I also read that wrong. But yeah, it's not worth coming back. It's just not worth that risk. You've got to be as close to 100% as you possibly can if you want to remotely compete in MotoGP. So yeah, to finish off with the Marc Marquez thing, I hope the abuse, the social media abuse, and that just calms down a bit, because I don't like to see it. I wouldn't like to see it for any rider, even riders that I've never really enjoyed or I'm not fans of. I don't think any rider is subject to that kind of abuse. Even with Darren Binder, I saw a couple of comments about him, and he shouldn't be there, and crashing, and it's it's just the world we live in these days. With social media, we can all have our say, but doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And why go there? Why go there? It's sad in a way, because these are superheroes of the sport that I love more than anything in the entire world. So I hope that can calm down, and I hope there's a little bit more respect. Something I think humanity is missing a little bit of is respect in general, and I hope we can find a little bit more, especially for the sport, because those kind of comments don't do the sport any favors. I think just my two cents. Anti-social media, Andrew Walker, you're absolutely right. I would love to get off it. Unfortunately, my main source of business is social media and stuff, but it's toxic, and we need to try and, as human beings, get rid of the toxic side. So let's see what happens with Marc Marquez. Let's wait and see. As for Darren Binder, let's see. Hopefully he'll be fit for Le Mans. I think it was a good thing that he didn't take part in Jerez, even if he was past fit. I think he needs that time off. Darren's got to get some consistency going. He really has got to get some consistency going. I love Darren. I'm a big fan of Darren. I think he's a superb talent, but he needs to string some consistency together. Like I said, a couple of the comments were he crashes too much, and he does, and he knows that. But it was an unlucky situation, the crash in Argentina that led to the injury. In Argentina, in Aragon. Eric on Kota. So nice long day. The heat's got to me today in the UK. The 18 degrees of heat has got to me. Yeah, but Darren does. He needs to just, even if it means backing off 2-3 tenths and just picking up, 10th, 11th, 12th, just 2 or 3 races. Darren's a go-getter. Darren wants to go flat out all the time, and that's why he's in the championship, because what makes the best is they never say die, never hold back kind of attitude. But sometimes you've just got to take one step back to go 2 steps forward, and I think that's what Darren needs to do. I know he's got the pace. A lot of us know he's got the pace to be an amazing rider, to potentially challenge for a Moto2 World Championship. You're not going to do that by crashing and hurting yourself and missing races. You need the consistency in all the championships these days. Look at MotoGP. I mean, Marco Bezzecchi was leading the World Championship heading into Jerez. He had the win in Argentina. Other than that, it was just consistency that got him there. Brad Binder went into the Jerez MotoGP race weekend. I think he was 9th in the World Championship with a little bit of inconsistency. Sprint, picking up the win there and some good points. But in the main races, not 2 DNFs, but 2 crashes and basically finishing last. And he comes out of the Jerez weekend in 3rd. It's that, and Alex Rins was right in the mix after his Kota win, and he's nowhere now. So it's consistency. Sometimes, and I think this is where the mental shift needs to come in with some of these riders is, sometimes that backing off and picking up the result could mean a lot more than, risking too much. I think especially for an overall championship, it's maybe the way to look at it. So yeah, Darren Binder, wishing him a speedy recovery. I really hope he can be at Le Mans. Jerez would have been fantastic because Darren loves the track. He would have been fast there. I think he would have really done well there. But it's in the past now. Forget about it. Focus on Le Mans and focus on the rest of the season. Let's build some consistency and show the world the real Darren Binder. Not used to see Honda at the back of the list of manufacturer standings. Justin DP. Yeah, it's Honda. I mean, we can go there quickly. It's just dismal. It is just horribly dismal. Joan Mir is your 2020 world champion, and a lot of people say it wasn't a real championship. He's not a true world champion because of the kind of COVID times in the year and the inconsistency on others, and he only won one race that year, and and I was one of those that kind of said, well, was it really a championship? It certainly wasn't the best championship in many years of MotoGP. And unfortunately, his performances now and the last couple of years, to be honest, haven't really done himself any favors. Of course, he's a superb talent. Joan Mir is a fantastic talent. We know this, but man alive, it's shocking. It is absolutely shocking where Honda are. I know at the Jerez test today, they were testing the Calyx chassis, new aero packages, new everything, basically. And one of the questions I wanted to ask Shez, and one of the questions we'll ask maybe, Simon Crayford or Brad or any one of the top guys that we can get on later shows is, how does an Alex Rins go from Kota on a Honda and just make it look like it's working and win the race, and not just win the race and lucky to win the race. He won that race. Full credit, they won that race. Then to come to Jerez and Jerez is a kind of track that a lot of guys go good at. A lot of manufacturers go good at, because it's Europe, it's good testing ground. A lot of laps have been done there. But even Stefan Bradl, who you think every time Danny Pedrosa's gone testing at Jerez, Bradl's gone testing on the Honda, and Bradl was nowhere. Having said that, I think he was the second best Honda most of the time. But it's dismal times for Honda, and they are trying everything, for Honda, one of the biggest motorcycle manufacturer in the world, to kind of say Calyx, this tiny little company, I think Jonathan's mentioned it before, this tiny company with like 10 people working for them, to build us a chassis, please, to try. I didn't ever think in my lifetime I would see the mighty Honda the way they are. Um, it's it's sad. It's not good for the sport. We want all of the manufacturers up there, but the Japanese just seem to be getting it wrong at the moment. Because you look at Yamaha, they're just getting it wrong. Whatever the Europeans are doing, whether it's aerodynamics, whether it's electronics, whatever it is, they're getting it right. Honda's problem just looks front end. I know Iker Lecuona, the World Superbike rider, he came in to fill in for Marc Marquez this weekend. And in all his debriefs, he just said, I just cannot get a feeling with the front. It just feels like it's just going to do this the whole time. And it's literally what it does the whole time. Alex Rins going into that turn 9. Okay, we see a lot of front end crashes in turn 9, but Alex Rins went in there, didn't look terribly out of shape or going in too fast, and the front goes. Joan Mir, the front just goes. They've got a big problem. So anyway, let's see. Testing today, I haven't really delved into it. With the Calax chassis, we're gonna have to wait and see. But Honda have got a lot of work to do. There's no doubt about that. Brian Ritchie, what's the news on Andrea Iannone? It's kind of gone a little bit quiet now. It was all this burst that he's coming back, and I haven't really heard anything. I'm hoping he does come back. I don't think MotoGP. He cannot come back to MotoGP. MotoGP is just at a level that'll eat Andrea Iannone up alive and spit him out. I think I would love to see him go to World Superbikes, to be honest. A Rinaldi in the factory Ducati team's not really doing much. Okay, Axel Bassani, he's doing brilliant things that he warrants a factory ride. I would love Iannone to fit in. Petrucci's not really gelling in World Superbikes just yet. Still early in the season, I know. But yeah, there's a couple of areas that I think Andrea Iannone could fit into, and I would love to see him come back. So yeah, let's see what happens there. Douglas Twig, evening, Rob. Hope you well and lack a weekend. Brad has the best riding style ever. The bike is suiting his riding style. We love seeing him putting that KTM sideways. And when I went to the Portimao GP, the first GP of the year, and I was speaking to Jack, and I was, just outside the press and that, not even in press debriefs. And, what are the kind of things you're working on? And he just said engine braking, electronics. I need the bike to kind of, let me take it into the corners more. He just felt like the bike was taking him into corners, and you could see it at Jerez, him and Brad just backing those bikes in and smoking him coming out of the corners. That sprint race from lap 1 where they come out and the rear tires were just smoking. And you could see after, the racing, how they spoke. It's like, you could see how excited they are about the sprint racing. The sprint racing has worked. Well done, Dorna. They needed to do something. They did it. They got a lot of, pushback from it, from teams and riders, and a couple of people in the press and a couple of fans saying it's not going to work. It has worked, and it is phenomenal. It is simply breathtaking to watch those sprint races, because it's just all out. Just go. You don't have to worry about saving that much tire. Let the thing spin. And Brad Binder just backing it in. I've been fortunate enough that I've seen Brad do those kind of things on bikes that he's tested, like at Red Star and Kyalami, and when even when he was a young 14-year-old, and I got to race with him in national Supersport 600s in South Africa. He was doing that kind of thing on his Skadonk Suzuki GSXR 600. The man is he's an animal. He's an absolute animal. I love Simon Crayford. He says he's the nicest guy off track, but he's just this demon. And one of the questions I would have asked Pecco Bagnaia at the debrief after Sunday's race is, heading into that last lap, seeing that you've got a Brad Binder like 0.2 on your arse heading onto the last lap must be the worst thing to see in your life. That must be the worst pit board you can get, is to see a Brad Binder and a Jack Miller like on your arse with 1 lap to go, because you're just going to get this orange bike coming, sliding on the inside, around the outside, every which angle. And Brad gave it a really good go, and hats off to Pecco Bagnaia, because obviously from a fanboy point of view, Brad Binder was rider of the day for me, but realistically, it has to go to Pecco Bagnaia, because after Kota, after everything that's happened, the rocky start that he's had, knowing that he's got a mistake in him, with the tire pressures going up, and he sat behind Brad, and his tactics were good. You could see he backed off, trying to let the front tire cool down, then he would make his attack on Jack Miller. The pass on Jack, we'll talk about race direction and passes. He had to relinquish that position again, and then he had to come back and deal with again the front tire overheating and everything from Kota. Pecco in that race, to me, proved why he's got that number one plate on. He was absolutely phenomenal, Pecco, because Brad Binder's probably the toughest competitor. Brad and Jack Miller are probably the toughest competitors that you've got out there on there in the track, and his racecraft with both of them was perfect, and to hold off a charging Brad Binder on the final lap was sensational. So well done, Pecco Bagnaia, and he now leads the World Championship. I mean, we all sat after Kota going, Pecco Bagnaia, he's throwing it away, and here he leads the championship by something like 20 something points. 87 points is Pecco Bagnaia. Bezzecchi 65 points. Brad Binder, like I said, went from 9th to 3rd with 62 points. Jack Miller on 49 points. So yeah, with Pecco, despite the world saying that after Kota and his crash and this crash and it's all over, and he's number one man's doing what the number one man should be doing, and it's winning races and leading the World Championship. So yeah, but it was so exciting for MotoGP to see bikes going sideways. As I said, I was at Jerez last year, and I got to watch service road trackside and going into that final corner, and some of those it is sensational to watch those bikes slide and go in there. This year, I would have just cried. I think I would have just stood there, just cried tears of absolute joy. That was MotoGP. And that's what MotoGP need to focus on. More of that. Don't do anything, excuse my French, to fuck that up. Just don't. And this race direction crap could potentially do that. Okay. And that's what we'll talk about just now. I'm just going to finish off on KTM first. Brilliant. They've worked hard. Their hard work's paying off. We've all had question marks. We've all gone, when is it going to start working? Get away from WP suspension. Get away from that trellis beam chassis. It's not going to work. You're throwing money. Blah, 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 blah. We've all. I've been one that's gone, geez, KTM, it's time now. Brad, maybe it's time to jump ship. It's, MotoGP waits for no man. Credit to Brad Binder. His loyalty has never been broken. He's stuck by them. KTM have always said, we will make this work. And Jerez was a big statement, was a massive statement for KTM, for Brad Binder, for Jack Miller, for Danny Pedrosa, and massive credit to the team. It really is. You'll see by the videos on their social medias and on the videos we've posted on Motor Rider World. It is such a close-knit family vibe. Guidotti was saying, it's not just about us, the factory, the support we get from the factory, all the workers that you don't see in the paddock and on TV, those guys in the factory working so hard, they also deserve the credit. This is a factory effort. I like how you use that. It's not a MotoGP team effort, it's a factory effort. And listen, I've always wanted the Brad Binder and the KTM love story to kind of blossom and turn into potentially a MotoGP championship contending or winning package, because that'll just be this fairy tale story. Red Bull rookies, Moto 3 world champion, Moto 2 contender, winning races there. Brad was the first KTM to win in KTM's backyard in Austria. It'll just be that perfect fairy tale, and it looks like it's starting to happen now. Jack Miller needs huge amounts, or a massive pat on the back, and massive amounts of credit needs to go to Jack Miller for the input that he's brought in, not only on track, off track. And I say that because if you look at that vibe after the race where they're all celebrating champagne and oi, 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 and Jack's right at the forefront of that, and he's done it through his Pramac, through his Mark VDS Honda. He's done it everywhere he goes. He kind of brings the whole team together in many ways with his positive attitude. He's just this amazing guy, and he's had a lot of input. He's brought a lot of that Ducati information along with all the Ducati techs that came in, and they're making it work. They're going in the right direction, and they've made it work. So massive credit to them. But we can't forget, and I know a lot of focus gets turned to Jack and the work that they've done, and we can't forget that. But we also can't forget the loyalty of Brad, the input that Brad's put into this, because he's created this base package in a way that Jack's come in and fine tweaked here and there, and Brad's also been involved with that fine tweaking, as has Danny Pedrosa, and they've just worked that project has just been a massive success. So I just love seeing the influence that Jack's had off track as well. Brad and his team have always had this great vibe about them, and at a very tight knit, celebrate together, lose together, up together, down together. They do everything together. Some can say, the last couple of years with Miguel Oliveira kind of lost that. There was a bit of negativity that came in. Maybe there's certainly wasn't this vibe that Jack Miller's brought, and even on bad days, Jack's smiling and taking the best out of it, and that just that filters through the whole team, and it's just this beautiful atmosphere in that camp at the moment. I saw it firsthand at Portimao, even though it was nowhere near as good as Jerez. I can only imagine how good Jerez must have been, and I had a couple of our fans and a couple of mates of mine that were at Jerez, and they just said it was absolutely phenomenal. So, what, massive hats off. I've got to put my hands up to Danny Pedrosa, and a lot of people asked me ahead of the weekend, what do you think Danny will do? And I said, MotoGP is just another animal. I can't see Danny getting a top 10. FP1 fastest rider. Yes, he's done a lot of laps there so far this year in testing, so he was kind of the freshest. You had the setup. I wasn't really that surprised with first place in FP1, because, as I said, he was there a couple of weeks ago. But then to carry on the form that he did throughout the whole weekend, and to finish P6, qualify P6, finish P6 in the sprint, and then P7. I want to actually just get the actual numbers here, because it was phenomenal. Danny Pedrosa, P7, 14 seconds off Bagnaio's win. I mean, it's phenomenal for 37-year-old retired racer. Absolutely phenomenal. So massive round of applause, KTM. Well done. We've still got to go to Le Mans and prove it. You've still, got to consistently prove it. But I think they made a massive step forward. I think the confidence is there in the riders, in the team. Even if the setup and that's not quite there, when you've got that amount of confidence, it kind of overshadows some of the little problems that you might have when you've got all that confidence. When you're breeding that confidence, you can ride past problems if they are, and that's where KTM are at the moment, and that's where Honda and Yamaha aren't. They don't have that confidence. So, and I remember, but I was by no means top professional racer like MotoGP style, but I remember when going into race weekends, when you're confident, you complained less, if you know what I mean. You'd have front end tucks and the rear sliding a bit, but you'd come in and say, yeah, it's cool, it's controlling, I'm having fun. But when the confidence is not there, this front end shit, the rear, I can't ride this motorbike, and it almost created problems that weren't there, or were there but weren't as big as you were making them out to be. And that's where Honda and Yamaha are. That's where Fabio Quartararo is with Yamaha. He is mentally shut off from the project on race weekends, and they need to somehow get him back. Today's testing, he was third fastest, I think, fastest lap time he set all weekend. So they tried new aero and something, but Yamaha's biggest problem is they've got two riders that only know a Yamaha M1 in MotoGP, so there's no fresh ideas coming. It's just, we know Yamaha from 2019 when it worked. Give us that again, but that's not going to compete with the new Ducatis and the new KTM. So they've got to improve. Why was a Cal Crutchlow not racing at Jerez? Why was there not a third Yamaha motorcycle on that grid to try and improve things? And this is where Yamaha need to pull their socks up, because, and this is, Lynn Jarvis done a great job, been there for a long time. I think it's time to shift. If you look at KTM not doing the job, cheers, or we need fresh ideas, cheers, and that's where MotoGP is at the moment, unfortunately, with riders, with team members, with mechanics. Get the job done or get out. And I think Yamaha need a fresh approach. I think Yamaha need a a change. They need a massive, massive, massive change, because I could see the Fabio relationship with the Lynn Jarvis and that potentially going kind of like a Maverick. I'm not saying Fabio is going to go try and blow Yamaha engines and that, but I don't think Lynn Jarvis is that type of guy that puts his arm around a rider and comforts them and gets the best out of them the way that Guidotti does in KTM now, and certainly before in previous years with Pramac. Tardozzi, in a way, I can see that, but he's got a good blend of ruthless and comfort in a way, and you need that. You need that in the MotoGP paddock. You need your riders to know that you're there for them to talk to and confide in, and be that shoulder to cry on almost. But at the same time, if you're not getting the job done and you're doing silly things, get a good solid backhand. So yeah, Yamaha and Honda need a complete refresh. I think Honda as well with Alberto Puig. It's not working. It's just not working. Try something else. You've got to try something else. So let's see. But anyway, fantastic weekend for KTM. Well done, Brad Binder. Well done, Jack Miller. Well done, Danny Pedrosa. Well done, KTM. Well done, Tex. Well done, Mark. All the guys involved with the KTM team. Bjorn Esmond. Courtney. Just everyone there. Zoe, Sarah. Everyone. Sebastian. Everyone involved. Pit Barra needs a massive tip of the cap, because he's stuck to his word. They haven't gone backwards; they've gone forwards, and they've stuck to their guns, and it's working. So yeah, well done to them. Let's have a look here. John McLaughlin, we spoke about Mia and Rins. It's Wayne Rex. How's it from Thailand? Wayne, how are you doing, man? Thank you so much for joining us from Thailand. Love it. Absolutely love it. Ruan Dietlef. Hey, Rob. On the post-race presser, Patterson said a lot of riders complained about Michelin tires being terrible and causing crashes. So, Ruan, from my experience and talking to a lot of the riders in the paddock, the Michelin's the greatest tire in the world. It is the greatest tire in the world when it's at the perfect temperature, in the perfect conditions. Now, to Michelin's defense here, they can't control conditions. They can't control track conditions and the weather and. But they seem to have this tire that, again, when it's at the perfect temperature, it's a fantastic tire. But if that temperature just diverts 0.001 of a bar up or down, it loses everything. From what I hear, you'll hear Brad and a lot of the riders say, I just couldn't bring the tire up to temperature. That seems to be a problem. These tires have one kind of heat cycle in them, and I've seen behind the tire guys that monitor the tires. They've got to monitor those tires to the degree, to the everything. Everything has to be spot on for those tires to work. And also in Michelin's defense, the riders are pushing tires and machinery, more than they ever have before. It's where it is, and this is where the race direction kind of argument's going to come in now. Just know that as well is, we're seeing more crashes and we're seeing more of these kind of things. Not down to the Michelins being terrible. Yes, can they be better? Yes, can they give more fuel? Because they do. They just go. They don't do any more of these Marc Marquez saving on the elbow kind of front tucks. They do just seem to go, and when they do drop, they drop. But they're being pushed to the absolute limit every lap, faster than they've ever been pushed, harder than they've ever been pushed on the brakes, coming out of corners, on all these different types of chassis, different types of riding styles. I would hate to be a Michelin tech. I would hate to be a Michelin tire tech. I really would, because you're not going to win. You're not going to win on a day, on a weekend like this. You're going to get praised, and then on weekends where it doesn't work, you're the biggest star soul on the planet. So I do. I think it's a tough one. I understand from a fan point of view, and I got bloody Michelin's be crashed because of Michelin's, but at the same time, is the racing good? Yeah, it is good. I know that they're going to bring in this new tire pressure rule. I think from the next race onwards, Stephen Berry and Jonathan Borg can kind of mention it on the side there. where there's going to be um, I think like a set tire pressure that you can't move or something. But the tires will always be a big talking point. But I do sympathize with Michelin a little bit because of the level where MotoGP is at the moment. You know, it's they're never going to get it right. When they work, it's the greatest tire on the planet. When they don't work, it's the worst tire on the planet. It's just how it is. Great to see Lowe's win in Moto 2 again. Rob Swart. Yeah, Rob, that was. I've been a big critic of Sam Lowe's lately. I didn't think he deserved that good ride in Moto 2. Yes, he's married to, the daughter of the team owner or something like that. She's the team coordinator or something. So, that kind of gets him in there. Sam Lowe's is a great talent. We know that he's challenged for many Moto2 world titles. He raced in MotoGP for Aprilia. Didn't really make that work, but he's always been a top Moto2 contender. But the last couple of years, he crashes way too much. He's very inconsistent. He just can't string anything together. And, putting my critic hat on, I don't want Darren Binder to go down that route, that Sam Lowe's route, where we know how fast you are, we know how sublimely good you are, fantastic, but you can't be trusted because there is a crash, and you can't string a good campaign together because of these inconsistencies with injuries. And to put my fanboy cap back on, I would slap my critic self and say, shut up, Darren Binder's the greatest invention ever. You don't dare say that about him. Piss off, basically. But it's the reality. I want to see Darren Binder shining more often than not, and the only way to do that is by staying on the motorbike. So yeah, from Sam Lowe's point of view, brilliant, and it was a dominant win. I mean, Pedro Acosta is the hottest property in Moto 2 at the moment, along with Arbolino, and Sam Lowe's taught them both a lesson, including what's his name, Alonso Lopez. Is it Alonso Lopez? Yes, it is Alonso Lopez. So yeah, it was brilliant. Great to see Sam Lowe's there. That's probably why we had a public holiday here in the UK today. It was Bank Holiday Monday, but it was probably because Sam Lowe's won again. Let's have a look. Daryl Bryce Rob, speak to Brad, to speak to Darren to calm the F down and just go for some points for a race or two before he kicks Acosta's backside. Daryl, yeah, listen, it's Darren will be Darren. Darren is Darren. I can tell you now, Trevor's probably kicked Darren in the arse more times than anything, and I'm sure Brad's had the same conversation with Darren. I've had the conversation with Darren. I'm sure Darren's probably sick of hearing the conversation, but it's a hard conversation to have because you are who you are, and as I've said in previous posts, Darren's biggest asset is also his biggest weakness. The fact that he's die hard, never say die attitude, just give it his all the time. That is what makes me a fan of Darren Binder. Never mind the fact, of the relationship that I've had with him growing up. I'm a fan of Darren. I'm a fan of any rider that just gives 110% all the time and doesn't do a lot of whining off the track and blah, 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 blah. That's why I'm a fan of all the MotoGP riders, but one rider I just cannot get along with is Raul Fernandez. I just cannot. I cannot, because the kid's living the dream, had more chances than anyone else in MotoGP. He should not have had the chance that he had this year, and then he's not even taking full advantage of, but, landed his arse in butter ahead of the Remy Gardners, although Remy did it to himself. He was another whining rider that, was his own worst enemy. But yeah, I can't stand that. You will always have my support if you're just a decent person. Well, I'm not saying Ralph Fernandez is not a decent person, but if you just, there's Darren Binder. After he broke his hand in Kota, holding it, and he's got a smile on his face. Yes, he's eating himself up inside. He wants to punch walls and headbutt people. I'm sure he does, but he's living the dream. He's racing a motorcycle at the highest level, and you can never forget that. And that's where Brad Binder's been so good. That's where Jack Miller's so good. Even in the tough times, they never go, well, F this, and it's not my fault, and it's it's never a pity party. It's always positivity. So yeah, Darren just needs to do Darren with a little tweak, just with a little, if you've got to slow down by 0.2 of a second and finish in 10th or 11th, it's not the end of the world. Take it, take it, because you know with that, takes comes confidence. Finishing races, you get confidence from finishing races. you know I, I know it's not confidence inspiring. Darren wants to win races, so if he's not in first, he's not happy. But it's especially now for Darren in Moto2 this year, he's got to take as much information as he can, ready to attack next year. So again, as I said, he's just got to find a little bit of consistency, and I'm sure Daz will. I'm praying Daz will. I have full faith in our Daz. There's no doubt about it. Darren's team just love him. All the hatred on Thing. I love Razlan's comments on Raul. Karma, dude. Yeah, Mariska, I loved seeing that, because they can't be happy. They went out on a limb to get Raul Fernandez over a Darren Binder, over, I'm sure, a couple of other potential riders. They've gone for Raul Fernandez, who was supposed to be the next blue-eyed boy, and he's doing the exact same thing. It's not my fault. The team need to fix it. Razlan was talking about fitness. He's having these arm pump issues, and Razlan and them are worried, because I don't think he takes it seriously enough. I don't. He didn't last year, and he certainly isn't this year. If you look at what Miguel's doing with very limited time, and everything that's happened to Miguel Oliveira, climbing on that bike and being the leading Aprilia, certainly at Jerez in the sprint race. The Raul has no excuse. Raul Fernandez has no excuse whatsoever, but he's finding excuses. Which of the following did Miguel Oliveira do? Step under a ladder, break a mirror, black cat cross his path, all of the above. Stephen Berry, you just have to feel for Miguel Oliveira. You really do. He just doesn't deserve what's happening to him. No one deserves what's happening to Miguel Oliveira. And it's such a pity, because, again, I'm talking about the momentum thing. That's all he needs. And what he's doing on that Aprilia so far, with everything that's happened to him so far, is, I think, brilliant. I think Miguel Oliveira is one to watch. If he gets some good consistency behind him on that Aprilia, he's going to really do something special. But the guy just can't catch a break. I mean, well, he can catch a break, just the wrong kind of break. Yeah, dislocated shoulder now. It looks like there is a fracture, so potentially going to miss Lamar. Razlan, as you said, Mariska, maybe a little bit of karma, because I don't, I loved my time with Razlan last year. I have huge respect for Razlan and his team, but I do think they handled the whole Darren thing terribly in my mind. I do think they used Darren last year. I don't, even though he came out a lot and he said to my face, yeah, Darren will definitely be with us next year. And I think the plan was never to keep Darren. I think Darren could have gone and, won races, and I don't think he would have stayed there. It was all just a plan. So from that point of view, I was very disappointed. And yeah, in a way, it could be karma. In a way, it could be karma. Do they deserve it? I don't think so. But certainly something is happening. Marius Dixon, why is Japanese manufacturers falling behind? So Marius, it's, this is just me. I mean, I'm not Simon Crayford. I'm not at the top of the list of critics or anything. This is just me talking my love of the sport, and with the experience and the resources that I have to give my 2 cents worth. You see it in World Superbikes as well. And I was supposed to have an interview, a 20-minute interview with Johnny Ray last week ahead of the Assen race. Unfortunately, that got cancelled at the last minute because Johnny was running late and Dorna interviews, and I didn't want to rush it. I want Johnny's full attention, because I got some really good questions. So that'll happen next week, Thursday, ahead of the Catalunya round. And, one of the questions is going to be, why are the Japanese bikes just not competing with the Europeans? If you look in World Superbikes, okay, it's more a case of Alvaro Bautista on the Ducati more than anything. But, there's Axel Bassani. No disrespect to Axel Bassani. He's a fantastic rider, but is he better than a Johnny Ray in a top rack? I don't think so. But, he's up there contending on a Ducati. The Europeans are just getting it right. The Japanese aren't. And I think it's because the Japanese are like this. Again, I spoke about it earlier. Why did Yamaha not have a test rider racing this race weekend? the most important, the most valuable information you can get is in race conditions. And the information KTM got from Danny Pedrosa this weekend, competing for a 37-year-old Danny Pedrosa, whose last race was 2 years ago as a wild card, and I think he finished 11th and crashed out or something at the Red Bull Ring, and wasn't as competitive as he was at Jerez. That's for sure. For a 37-year-old rider who is race rusty to come in and top a free practice session, qualify 6th, finish 6th and 7th, and that data gained is like invaluable, and the results were there to see from KTM. And there Yamaha are going, oh, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. Fabio saying we lost. We don't know where we are. We can't do anything. We're slower than we were when I was a MotoGP rookie, for goodness sake. And he was slower than he was when he was a MotoGP rookie, first time on a Yamaha around Jerez. And what do Yamaha do? Put the same two bikes out. You go. Oh well. They don't have a Cal Crutchlow there or a Lorenzo. They let Lorenzo go because they weren't using the guy for testing, because they hired him during COVID and they just weren't testing as much. And Lorenzo went, well, bugger this then. You had Jorge Lorenzo. You signed Valentino Rossi as an ambassador. Why is that guy not? I'm not saying he should. No doubt Rossi's information would be good, but a year ago he was racing and he wasn't getting results, so how valuable could that be? But you need information. Get information. Don't sit and try and rely on what you got, which is your two riders competing against other manufacturers that have 4 and 6 and 8 bikes on the grid. You're not going to go anywhere. So it's this mentality. I saw it last year with Darren Minder. They just are so narrow-minded, especially the Yamaha Japs. The Japanese, the Honda Japanese, you can take your hat off and say, well done. Simon Crayford said it even in the testing today. Well done. They are brave enough, and I'm trying to think of the word. They are brave enough to say, you know what, we're not getting it right. Kalex, will you help us? You've got to do that. You've got to kind of, put your head between your legs and say, we're not getting it right. Help, please help. And Yamaha are refusing to do that at the moment. And that is to their detriment. Ducati and the KTMs and the Europeans are doing it right. They spending the money, they're utilizing all their resources. Michele Pirro just tests that Ducati all the time. He's always testing. Danny Pedrosa is doing a lot of testing. You never hear of Cal Crutchlow testing. You never, ever hear of Cal Crutchlow testing. Toprak did the test now 2 days at Jerez. Maybe that was just, well, let's just put him on the bike and see what he says. Maybe we can take some information from it. I'm very disappointed with Yamaha, to be honest. I'm very, very disappointed with Yamaha. Fabio Quartararo is a machine, and he should not be having the weekend that he did this weekend at Jerez, a track they've dominated, and Fabio Quartararo has dominated at. Franco Morbidelli has dominated at on Yamahas, and they were pathetic. They were absolutely pathetic. Yes, they salvaged 10th and 11th or something at the end, which was brilliant because Fabio had 2 long lap penalties because he can't stay in the white lines. Fabio had Franco also had a long lap penalty, so they did well to do that. But who are you beating? You're beating test riders and a rookie, Augusto Fernandez. That's who you're beating. You're not beating the Brad Binders, the Jack Millers. You're not even competing with them. You're nowhere near them. So the Europeans are getting it right, certainly with electronics, and you can see that. Getting back to my Jack point, Jack said we need the bike to do more of what we, the rider, wanted to do going in the corner. And there's Brad Binder, Moto2 styling it into corners now. There's Jack Miller. Those passes on Pecco where just sideways drift. From my experience, I could only go into a corner like that. And that's why I struggle sometimes when I test these modern day production superbikes, and you can't turn all the electronics off, and the bike corrects itself and wants to point in a straight line, because that's how majority of the target market, a track day rider, he only knows to go in straight. So that's what he wants. So that's what the bike's doing. So that's, from what the target market wants, yes, production bikes are perfect with those electronics. But a rider like me, when I go into a corner, straight up, like it just doesn't feel natural to me. I'm like, but when I go in just with a little bit of rear movement, it just feels like, you line up the corner a bit better. And the proof was in the pudding. There was Brad Binder riding the way he wants to, and they got it right. And that's, a combination from what I can hear of engine braking electronics, engine management, so there's just that right amount of kind of engine braking and inertia and everything, and maybe something to do with aerodynamics, but it's all working in perfect tandem now. And it was so beautiful to watch. It was absolutely so beautiful to watch. And if you look at Fabio's Yamaha, most of the time it's always in line, and when it does step out, it kind of gives him a shake and a wobble so it's almost like they're too precise, Yamaha. It's like they're too precise. Exactly what I was saying. Like, they've probably got everything too good with the electronics and that. You need to just free it up and let the riders, and you need to listen to your riders. I don't think Yamaha, I saw it last year with Yamaha and Darren. They didn't listen to a word Darren said, to be honest, from what I could see. They just didn't listen to a word he said. And how much are they listening to their riders? Well, not much, because their riders, since the start of the year, have gone, the bike's crap, the bike's crap, the bike's crap, the bike's crap, the bike's still crap. It's just, and you put two bikes out. Today, I don't know if was Carl Crutchlow testing today at Jerez. Stephen, Jonathan, I don't know. I mean, was he even there today? I don't know. Jonathan Borg, Jerez used to be first track where Yamaha would start to do really well in the championship. Yeah, I know. This is and this is what I said. I think I said it last show, the coaches show. I said Jerez is going to be a yardstick for a lot of teams, for KTM, for Honda, for Yamaha. Ducati are just all round good. We know that. And it was. Yamaha failed, Honda failed, KTM soared. And that's what came out of this. And you're absolutely right, Jonathan. That's where, if you don't get it right at Jerez, you've got problems. You've got big problems. One feels for Joan Mir, so talented, but not a Honda style rider. Carlos, I agree with you. Is he a Honda style rider? I don't know. I think he could be on a Marc Marquez Honda from 4 years ago. I think the Honda now is just so bad. I said it at Portimao. You look at all the bikes parked, just when they're wheeling them, and they just parked there. The Ducati looks in line and it looks balanced and everything looks like it fits, and that the KTM, it looks a bit bulgy with all those wings and that, but the balance looks quite good. There's not this massive gap between the mudguard and the front, and there's not this massive fork trail, and it looks balanced. The Aprilia, also same, looks nice and balanced. The front, there does look like there's more stroke in the forks there. The Honda just looks like completely jagged. The front's low, the arse is up here. They've taken the spikes from the Ducati to put on the back. They've taken the side from the KTM. That, you know what I mean? It's like copied and pasted this machine in the hopes that it'll work, and it's not working. Rather than, okay, we've got to find our own way. And, that's hopefully what they're doing with this Calyx. Hopefully they can get a new reference, a new starting point with this Calyx and work from there. Because at the moment it's just, okay, well, put that on. Let's try that. Oh, no, put that on. And it showed with the testing that Marc Marquez did, where he rocked up with, what was it, 5 bikes, one with no wings on to try. It's, for goodness sake, find a base. Find a base and work with it. And to KTM's credit, that's what they've done. They've worked with this base that they have with the WP and the beam chassis, and yes, it's taken them a long time, but they're reaping the rewards of it now, and they're reaping the rewards of spending money in the right places. If it's going to cost that much to lure an Italian away from Ducati, and that is like a dream job for any Italian tech, is to work for Ducati and MotoGP. So to lure them away from that, as KTM did, takes a lot of money and a lot of persuasion. But they did it because they knew we've got to go that route. KTM was suffering because they were trying to follow Honda. Pit Byra said, Honda are the reference, we're doing Honda. And they did that with some success in that. But, the decline of Honda kind of also was a decline of KTM, because they went, oh God, well, what's the reference now? Oh God. Ducati created this new reference, and KTM went, well, we can't follow those guys anymore. They're getting it wrong. Let's, follow these guys. And they took a little bit of that. They've taken all those techs. They've done the Red Bull Formula One aero. They've gone about it in the right way, and the results are there for everyone to see. Jack Miller was a phenomenal signing, the signing of the century. Whether he wins a race or not, what Jack brings you on track and probably more so off track is priceless, and that's what Ducati have lost. If you look at that team now with Brad and Jack, I mean, it's like brothers. It's like just this. It's inseparable, and Ducati had that with Jack and Pecco, and now Ducati brought in Enea Bastianini, which I think was the right move because Enea's deserved it and he's fantastic. Bad luck with Marini taking him out, hurting his shoulder, so he hasn't got going yet. But you've broken that. You've broken that. I'm not saying it's completely broken, but it's certainly not what a Jack Miller brings you, which is unity and togetherness and come on guys, let's do this together. Not, hey guys, bugger him, look at me. And in a way, Ducati have got that now with Pecco and Enea. We haven't really seen it play out because unfortunately Enea hasn't been able to be there, but time will tell to see how that kind of goes. But yeah, Ducati must be looking at going, shit, we had this perfect team player. He was getting the odd good result. Was he ever going to win us a world championship? No. Did KTM sign Jack Miller to win them a world championship? Potentially, but I don't think that was the first thing on the top of the list of, benefits of having Jack Miller is to win us a world championship. It was team player, experience with Honda, Ducati machinery, brings these techs with him that he works so well with, and then further down the list, race winner, potential championship contender. So, and that team unity and that positivity and that Jack Miller brings is like, as I said, it's almost priceless. It's almost priceless. In fact, it is priceless because, look at that. I mean, and Brad and Jack were going at it. I mean, they were racing. Brad's move on Jack Miller when he slid it up the inside, had that thing bouncing and tuck in the front. You were my teammate. Oh, what the fuck are you doing, man? I'm your teammate. But there they are. They're unbreakable. They are just unbreakable. And it's, oh man, I loved seeing it. I didn't get to watch the racing live because I also had a busy weekend. But as soon as I got home, it was, right, kids, tranquilize, go to bed, brush your teeth. I'm watching racing. And I was glued to that screen. I was glued to that screen just as I was I'm always a fanboy, don't get me wrong, but I was a proper tongue out, dangling, drooling fanboy watching that racing from Jerez this weekend. It was, oh man, I came upstairs, I sang my Kosi Sikelele Brad Binder song. I sat here looking at my Michael Rogers Brad Binder painting. I wore my t-shirt, I wore my cap, kind of just stood at the shops, and wherever I went, I just stood so everyone could see my Brad Binder and my KTM shirt, because I was just so proud, man. I was just, I was the proudest, I know Trevor Binder, and then we're probably the proudest people on the planet, but I was right up there with them as one of the proudest men on the entire planet. I really, really was. Stephen Berry, regarding KTM's improvement, Matt Oxley's article today was pretty accurate. I briefly saw it, Stephen. I didn't read it, but I loved the picture of Jack Miller going sideways. I think it was, pretty much in that kind of aspect. Hendrik van der Merwe, Rob Pecco saved that tire well to last. He did, Hendrik, and that is where I take my hat off to Pecco Bagnaia. Yes, the Ducati is a phenomenal machine. But again, Pecco got the best out of it because the Zarcos were crashing, the Benzekis were crashing, the Ducatis weren't as dominant as they were. It didn't feel like they were as dominant as they had been at previous races. The Aprilias were good. Unfortunately, they just, they couldn't pull it off race result-wise. Maverick Vinales, I do feel for Maverick. That was the biggest kick in the teeth on the last lap for your chain to come off. I mean, we've seen it a couple of times at Jerez. I'm pretty sure it was Jerez, Rossi or Quattro. There's been a couple of chains go off there. But yeah, I did feel for Maverick Vinales. But again, Vinales, brilliant Friday, so fast, but he just can't bring it into the races. There's just something. Race starts for one missing with Maverick Vinales. He just needs to learn how to launch. And you saw it was there for all of us to see how vital a start is. Look at Brad and Jack. They lined up on that start grid knowing they were going to turn one first and second. They knew it. And the rest of the field knew it. And that plays on your mind. You know, Pecco's sitting there going, oh, God, I'm going to see these two orange bikes come past me. I know I am. And it plays on your mind. And Jack and Brad rock up on that start line looking around saying, right, boys, you just wait. Let us kind of carry on. So again, it's that confidence that I'm talking about. It's when you've got it in you, you are untouchable. And KTM's launches, whatever they do, look, to be honest, Brad has always been a good launcher and Jack's always been a good launcher. So yes, KTM are doing something, but they also have two of the best launchers on the grid in my mind, because to get it that good every single time, is a good combination of bike and rider. But your Maverick, if he wants to contend, this after race going, oh, it's such a pity because we had the pace. You can't keep using those excuses if you want to win a world championship or challenge for a world championship. They've got to figure it out. They've got to figure it out. Alicia Spargo, I mean, from pole position, I don't think he went into turn one better than fourth or fifth every single time, and there were all those red flags and everything. So yeah, Aprilia have got a problem with launching, whether it's just the launch control device, or I don't think they allowed that anymore, are they? Or whatever it is, they're getting it wrong. Jonathan Borg, one thing Brad impressed me, he never took his foot out while braking like most of the other riders. He was always at one piece with the bike, is what he's trying to say. So Brad's never had that leg off riding style. You'll see in some of the Foster left-hand corners, his foot comes off briefly. And I saw it a couple of years ago already, and I asked him about that. And he just said, it's just because I'm pushing so hard. It's just like a natural movement. It doesn't do it on purpose or anything. It's just, that's how it is. But it is awesome when you see Brad backing that bike in and the feet are still kind of on the pegs. Like, oh, man. Oh man, I just get chills when I replay that in my mind and see that picture again. It's like, oh, jeez, oh, it's like my wife cuddling me at night. Oh, I just love it. Oh, just fantastic. Stephen Berry, Pecco had 5 laps to catch and pass Brad. Would have been easier to settle for second and not risk another crash. Well done, Pecco. Stephen Berry, I salute you. Very well said, because he could have. Pecco should have, in the back of his mind, gone, you know what? It's Jerez. The front tire is going to overheat. It's going to push the front. I've crashed with the front. I don't trust the front. Let me settle for second. But Pecco went, bugger that. I'm going to win. And he did to perfection. And you could see him backing off Jack, letting the tire cool down, and then, his attack again. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, Pecco, rider of the day for me. Brad Binder, fanboy cap on. Brad Binder's the greatest guy in the world, rider of the day. Yes, bugger everyone else. Critic, journalist cap on. Pecco Bagnaia, no doubt about it. Speaking of Pecco, right, now is everybody listening? Because now I know the comments section is going to go disgustingly crazy, and I'm still going to try and I'm still catching up with comments, but let's talk race direction and MotoGP penalties. I've got to try and keep myself calm here and professional, and try and word things right, because I don't want people to go wrong, and then, I go downstairs and my door's been burnt down, or I've got bags, brown bags of something on my doorstep, and people find out where I live and spray paint my door and stuff, because that's where society is at the moment. You say one wrong thing and you're going to be the Marc Marquez of the world, the most hated man on the planet. It needs to be relooked, because they are not getting it right. There are situations where they are getting it right. Even initially when I go, they're not getting it right, I look back and I think, okay, I can now understand them. They also have access to a lot more views and that we do. And this has always been an argument. That's fantastic that you have that, but you've got to show that to the public. We see the replay that is clear as day. It's a racing incident. And you've termed it as this person doing it wrong. This is why. You've got to be an open book with that. You've got to, almost during the race, go to a Freddie Spencer or one of the guys and say, right, why have you made that call? Or after the race, or whenever. Why was that call made? Right, it was made. But you never hear anything. You get a letter He was found irresponsible riding. What? No, 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 no. Piero Taramasso from Michelin comes out, and Simon Crayford talks to him all the time. And whether it's good or bad, the man answers the questions. Most of the guys, why aren't we having race direction? Mike shoved in their face and saying, right, like, explain yourself. Explain yourself, because this is ridiculous now. There were calls made this weekend, and we'll try and touch upon a couple of them that were absolutely pathetic. Pathetic. I just want to just make sure I haven't missed any massive comment before I go into this, because this is going to be okay. Jonathan Borg's talking about it. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with this. Okay, so first incident was I'm just talking Jerez. I'm not gonna. We could be here all day if I go. We're already an hour and 10 minutes in. If I go before, I'm talking Jerez. First one was Frankie Morbidelli's penalty for his, his involvement in the sprint race, red flag with him, Alex Marquez, and Bezzecchi. Was it a penalty? Now, Franco has done some stupid things, riding slowly online, and he's deserved a lot of the penalties that he got. That incident, yes, maybe Franco was, a little bit eager going into there, but it was the same as Fabio. It's turn 2 at Jerez, which is a tight right-hand corner that you come, you brake hard, and there's two different lines almost. Some riders go a little bit deep and square it, some like to hug. So in Yamaha's case with Frankie and Fabio, they always like to turn a little bit tighter and hug it a bit more, whereas Ducatis, and if you looked at Brad and Jack on the KTMs, they almost back it in, go deeper and square it. So Frankie saw a gap that Alex Marquez left, and he tried to take it and got it wrong, and skittle effect happened. He gets a long lap penalty. I didn't agree with it, because again, I use the common sense of the whole picture. I take into consideration the corner, racing incident for me. Luckily, no one severely injured or anything. Okay, racing incident, cool. The next one was Fabio Quartararo, Sunday main race, the first red flag. Was it the first red flag or the second red flag? First red flag. Yeah, it was a sprint race that Fabio got a good start in the first one, and second one fluffed the start and didn't get the same result. Okay, so sprint race, main race, red flag. And this is the problem with Fabio Quartararo qualifying in 16th and trying to make your way through. Was there desperation to make a move from Fabio? Of course, he was trying to get to the front of the field, and he was going to take every gap or every little millimeter there. That's what the best riders in the world do. The best racers, not riders. And this is the word we need to remember: racers. Racing is putting competitors on machinery around a racetrack. It is called a racetrack for that reason. It's racing, not playing chess, not, line astern, motorcycle racing. So Fabio goes in, got Oliveira one side, got Bezzecchi the other side, and Fabio is kind of trying to go down the middle. Clips Oliveira, which pushes him into Bezzecchi, which pushes him back into Oliveira, and down they go. Was there a sense of urgency from Fabio? Was there a sense of desperation from Fabio? Yes, there was. But was it an intentional, fuck everyone, I'm coming through and I'm going to barge you all out of the way, get out of my way? No rider, no motorcycle rider will do that to others and to themselves. Marc Marquez's incident at Portimao, yes, he takes silly risks sometimes, but did he want to hurtle himself into Miguel Oliveira to potentially kill the guy? No. That does not happen. Riders do not go on the track going, right, I'm going to T-bone that guy right there. I'm going to end his career. I'm going to put him in hospital. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You think about it, you think, bastard, that passed me so badly in practice or qualifying. I'm going to really stick it to him. And then when you get into that situation on track, you go, oh, okay, but hang on. I'm going to hurt myself, crash my motorbike, cost money, and then don't do it. Okay. Racing incident, that term exists for that reason solely. Racing incident. It is an incident that has happened because these races are racing, and that term is being lost by race direction. It's not being taken into consideration as much as it should be for me. This is solely my perception. I put it out there on Facebook and our socials, and a lot of people share the same thoughts. There's one or two that share other thoughts, saying yes, it is a penalty because rider safety, and I understand the safety aspect. I do, and I wish motorcycle racing could be the safest sport on earth. I wish. The fact is, it will never be. It will never ever be the safest sport on earth. Football players run around and die of heart attacks. It, it, you if you're going to try and prevent every single thing that nothing happens, no one will watch sport. There's no reason to watch sport if you know that footballers aren't allowed to tackle hard, or golfers are going to hit it on the green every single time perfectly, and motorcycle racers are going to do these beautiful overtakes every single time. I won't watch that. I appreciate a good lined up move. I'm the first man to go fantastic, a Pecco Bagnaia move, and Pecco is that. Pecco is just precision when it comes to that. But one of the first things, if I'm teaching any youngster to go race, and once you've got the comfort and the hitting the apexes and lines in racing, the first thing you're going to tell any youngster is, or any racer is, you see a gap, you take it, because you might not get that opportunity, especially in MotoGP where it is at the moment. You see a gap, you take it, because you might not get another one. You might not get another gap, especially at a track like Jerez that it's very hard to overtake. If you see a gap, you take it. Jack Miller goes in deep. Again, that kind of corner sucks you in, and there's two lines. You can go deeper. Even if you're running a bit deep, you can still bring it back and off you go. Remember the incident with Dovizioso, Lorenzo, Danny Pedrosa all those years ago. It's that kind of corner. It's a racing incident. So Jack goes in a little bit deep, which he did a couple of times, leaves the door open. Pecco has now sacrificed his braking a bit, or he's hit his brake marker perfectly to hug the corner. So he's gone, well, okay, Jack's left the door open, I'm going. Jack brings it back, and someone made a very good point on Facebook. In modern day racing, the riders hang off so much that kind of vision behind them, they are hanging off looking there, that kind of vision doesn't exist anymore. So a lot of times you say, but I was right next to him. If you look at the Pecco incident, Pecco's warranted. He's right alongside Jack, and Jack's coming with all that momentum back to square it off to close that line, but Pecco's taken advantage of that line already. Jack picks up, Pecco picks up, says sorry, Jack gives him a little bit of a fluke, and they carry on racing. Racing incident, no contact, no one crashed, leave it at that. It's a racing incident. If Pecco had gone, Jack had come and contact, and potentially Jack crashed, still in my mind a racing incident because of the thing, but cool. Pecco Bagnaia penalty because you have caused another rider to crash. That rider has crashed. In this incident, Jack did not crash. Pecco made the move. Was it clean? Yes, it actually was. It was hard, yes, but it was clean. He made it with no contact, without pushing Jack off track, without Jack losing another position to a rider behind. Does Pecco deserve a penalty? No. Race direction give him a penalty. You've got to drop one spot, which Pecco does. Bastard, I didn't bring any water. A few laps later, Jack Miller, Jorge Martin into the final corner. And how many times over the years have we seen that at Jerez? It is that kind of corner. Shoves it on the inside of Martin. Martin turns in. Jack's there. Martin's got to pick up. He runs Martin wide. He runs himself wide. Cocks up the corner for both of them, but makes the pass, carries on. No penalty. And I don't think it warranted a penalty. It's a racing incident. It's a hard move. I'm on a KTM. He's on a Ducati. We're both stupid fast. I have to somehow get past this guy because my front tire is overheating. I've got to get past him. Block pass, old school, ram him off the track or ram him offline style. I'm putting my bike where I want to put it, and I've got to. The only way I can get it stopped is by running wide. Sorry. It's what made Rossi one of the best riders in the world. It's what made us all love Rossi, was his never say die attitude. I'm going to shove it on the inside and kick you off and bite you off if I need to. It's what made the best the best. It's what it is. He saw a gap, he took it. So why the hell Pecco's move that slightly put Jack offline, Pecco stayed online throughout the entire process, gets a penalty, but Jack's move doesn't? I don't understand it. And this is not even looking at half the moves that were probably going on further down in the pack between the likes of Iker Lecuona, Augusto Fernandez, and those kind of guys. There must have been stupid moves that we just never see, that race direction probably don't even look at. So it's just terrible. It is just, they are losing sight of two key words: racing incident. Racing incident. It's an incident that has taken place on a racetrack while racers are trying to race. Okay. They've got to relook this, because the last thing we want to happen is riders seeing a gap going, no, well, I can't take it because I'm too scared of getting a penalty of some kind. We can't have that mentality in motorcycle racing. You've got to trust these riders more. You have to trust them. Yes, a rider like Marc Marquez needs a little bit more pressure put on him because of his continuous, silly moves and hard riding. Yes, then put your foot down and say, right, Mark, you know what? We're seeing a pattern emerge here. We've got to put our foot down with you. But in a race like that, where Pecco has pulled off a sublime tactical move, in that split second that he saw Jack Miller run wide, and it is a split second, he had the craft, the skill to quickly throw it on the inside and carry on, not let Jack running wide catch his eye, stay on his line and make that move. And he gets punished for it. He gets punished for a perfect move that I would play to students as a right. That is racing. If you see a gap, you take it. And that should be the video played at any racing school to say that is how you take advantage of a move. You do not on purpose force the rider wide. You do not go wide yourself. You stay your line. And you pull it off. And Pecco did that, and he got punished for it. And then Jack goes and shoves it on the inside of Martin like proper and gets nothing. It's just this inconsistency. It's horrible to see. It's horrible to see. But anyway, let's see. Veggie, is Danny going to be racing for KTM going forward? So Veggie, and at the moment it was literally just the Jerez wild card. But I heard a stat from the weekend, and again, Stephen Berry or Jonathan Borg, you can help me out here. Or Sven Gruner. Sven Gruner is also a top-notch kind of pundit on the side. In fact, a lot of you are. Mariska Hutchinson's another one. You all are. Danny Pedrosa took part in his 297th Grand Prix. Danny, just do 3 more races, please, my bud. And it'll have to be 3 more main races, because I don't think a sprint race, I think it should count, but it doesn't. So I wonder if it would have to be main races. But just get to 300, man. Just get to 300. Go do another Red Bull ring. You've done many laps around there. Okay, I don't really think it's a Danny Pedrosa kind of track. I think a Jerez is, side of the tire, some fast sweeping corners. Catalunya, man. Come out and play at Catalunya, Danny. 3 more races. Just 300. Just get to 300 and potentially a podium. You've proved that you are still very competitive. You've proved it. So yeah, I really hope, really hope KTM give Danny. I think there is a limit maybe to the amount of wild card entries you can have through the season. So maybe that is a bit of a handbrake or something. But yeah, I really hope I can see Danny reach that 300 mark. I would love to see that. Haven't seen Brad be able to slide the bike like it for long. Wesley 290. I know, I love it. It's awesome, man. John Fernandez, it feels as if race direction are following other sports and trying to be bigger than the races and stars. That is the reason we watch MotoGP. They are getting it wrong. I agree. Listen, I know race direction's main focus, and I spent a lot of time with Freddie Spencer last year at the Knock Hill Track Day. Um, you know, I stayed with him for 3 or 4 days. Stayed at. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Freddie Spencer, and we didn't bring it up that often because it's a touchy subject, one that he doesn't want to talk about all the time because he does get it left, right, and centre. Jonathan Borg, just some information here. Limit of 5 wildcards. Pedrosa will be doing a second wildcard this year at Mazzano. See, it's Jonathan Borg. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for that private message and that information. I should have just not even said your name. I should have just said, actually, I know, and just taken all the credit. But that is the beauty of the show, is that, it's not just me, it's everyone feeding information. So Motor Rider World's for the fans, by the fans. For the critics and pundits, by the critics and pundits. We should maybe change it to oh no, a race direction. Yeah, so I spoke to Freddie, and he didn't really want to get into it because I think he gets it all the time. But they do. They've got to explain themselves more. As I said, for me, be an open book. After the race, say, right, why was Fabio's decision? Oh no, we felt that he overcommitted to the corner and he put riders in danger, or whatever it is. Okay, but the riders are in danger in every single corner, every single lap they go out, whether they're surrounded or not. It's motorcycle racing. You've got to trust these guys. These guys are the best in the world. Trust them. Trust them. Yes, if they get a little bit out of hand, like a Marc Marquez too often, and that, you've got to put your foot down. But Marc punished himself with the injuries and missing the season. Another year, another championship gone. Lying at home in pain, not sleeping. Sleepless nights. It's just trust the riders. Just trust the riders. Don't handcuff these guys. Just don't do it. Please don't do it. Please, you're getting it right with the sprint races. You're getting it right with the sprint races. There was 175,000 people at Jerez over this weekend. You're getting it right. Don't F it up. I keep saying the F word. Don't F it up. Please don't F it up. Ruan Dietlef agreed. Weekend must have felt amazing for Brad. His patience has paid off to a degree. It doesn't sound so crazy challenging for a title now. He looks like a different person being interviewed. Sven Good, let's not forget all the personnel they poached that also have been given their input in changing the bike. So total team effort. Sven talking about the KTM package. Couldn't agree with you more. Stephen Berry, Oxley's article credits the biggest improvement, the changes to the engine, firing order, etc., aerodynamics from F1, and then electronics. Thanks for that, Stephen. I'll definitely go read that Oxley article. Rob Portman, Pecco's penalty in relation to Fabio's. I've kind of just spoken about it. The inconsistency is just there for everyone to see. It really is, and it's not good, especially for some less educated or newbies coming into the sport, watching this, going, what the hell is going on here? These guys are racing and they're getting penalized for racing. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Sort it out. Stephen Berry, Yamaha's problem is they don't listen to riders. Agreed. 100% agreed with you, Stephen Berry. There should not have been any penalties. Not Pecco, not Fabio, and not Miller. WRT to screwing up the LLP. I guess rules and track limits are rules and limits. Like Flynn Faraday. I agree with you. None of those were penalties for me. And who was I speaking to? I think I was speaking to Dylan Conway the other day. And he was talking to me about, this, and, it is about safety and that. The problem is these guys are just, as I said, pushing the envelope. They are just trying to go faster and faster and faster and faster and faster because their tools are getting better and better. And this is my argument for Michelin, poor Michelin. Your tires are shit. And listen, for goodness sake, they're breaking lap records. They're going faster than they ever have. These riders are pushing them. Jesus, there's no such thing as a tire that you can just push until it just, a tire that will just never fold or never grip. So, another way of looking at it is, right, instead of bringing in penalties, slow the riders down. That'll make for safer racing. Will it not? Slow the riders down, slow the machinery down. You know, I don't want to see that. Listen, I don't want to see that. This is the top elite form of motorcycle racing. As much as I sometimes, and I do disagree with, too much aero, and they're spending gazillions now on aero and this and this and this. It's the elite form of motorcycle racing. Let it be that. May the best man win. Yes, sometimes it was may the best checkbook win, and that's one thing I do agree with Formula One bringing in that kind of budget cap, but that just seems to be going to shit now as well, because these guys are overspending on hospitality. Meanwhile, it's not buying extra lettuce, it's buying extra car parts. I don't know, whatever. But if you want to bring the safety down and whatever, slow the riders down. But you're encouraging them to go faster and push the limits, and that because the bikes are getting a bit, the tires, Dorna want the best show, so you guys must go faster, do better. We want more of your time. You get less rest time, and you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. So, yeah, if you want safer racing, slow the riders down, but then you'll kill the sport. And if you want to impose penalties like you did this weekend for stupid things, you're going to kill. You'll never kill the sport, but you'll certainly not make it as attractive as it is. Jerez this weekend proved that MotoGP is still the greatest form of motorcycle racing ever, even though you had one or two of these, race direction gremlins creep in. You've got the greatest platform on the planet, especially now with the sprint race, and bikes going sideways and smoking, like World Superbikes at Phillip Island. Oh, I loved it. I loved seeing Gerloff on those BMs and they're just smoking. I love seeing a smoking rear tire. It's just the greatest. When Brad was talking to Jack, and Jack was saying, Brad was saying, yes, you were smoking in my face. And Pekka was like, I had the best view in the house sitting in third watching you two guys. And that's what I want to see, man. As I said, I was glued to my screen. I was absolutely glued to my screen. I got to love what Miller was saying in the press conference about riders complaining about their bikes. Sven, just love Jack Miller. Stephen, Carl doesn't get the credit he deserved for developing the Honda when he was with LCR. He was Marc Marquez's test mule, pretty much what Zarco is doing now. Yeah, I can see that argument, Stephen. You're 100% right. And this is where Yamaha are getting it wrong. You had Jorge Lorenzo. You had this sublime talent. Listen, the arguments there whether or not Jorge Lorenzo was test rider material and develop a motorbike. He could make it work for himself, but it didn't necessarily mean it worked for others. But he did make a smooth riding Yamaha that a lot more people could ride, whereas they've got this package now that it's what is it. But yeah, it just amazes me that even now you've got a Carl Crutchlow who, last year when he took over for Dovi, he didn't get amazing results, but he put in a couple of decent rides, a couple of decent lap times, proved that he's still got a lot to offer, and then you don't use him. Madness. Rushay Woodley, Brian and Mohammed, a couple of guys bringing up Rushay Woodley. The progression of Rushay getting there, and what I was really proud to see from Rushay this weekend, it was kind of like a Darren Binder effect, is he crashed out at Portimao. He qualified brilliantly in Portimao. He showed that he's got the ability, he's got the pace, but I think it all got too much for him. Also hearing some internal, and that they said the more attention, Rushay's a very quiet. I will, and I want to get him for a one-on-one interview and bring him into a show like this, but he's so reserved and quiet. I'm going to have to just draw it out of him, but I need to get him on the show, because only by doing more kind of live interviews and that like this will prepare him for that. With Brad Binder growing up and getting the thing, I would do some track training with him, but Corin Landy, Trevor Binder, and then Brad went to kind of these interview things. Right, you got anything interview, go. Yeah, the park was good and I felt great. No, quick, speak up, be proud. You got to look after your sponsors, man. And Brad just does it to perfection. But he, in a way, he had that training. So Rushay Woodley, brilliant job this weekend. Again, I think took that step back to go forward. Didn't overcommit. Didn't push the boundaries. got comfortable and had two great races for me. Top 10s in Red Bull Rookies Cup, ladies and gentlemen, is no mean feat. It's a fantastic achievement. So Roche Woodley, I'm a huge fan already. I love the kid. I love the family. I love that project, and I seriously hope it can continue. I seriously hope that South Africa Super Sport and the big companies from South Africa get behind that a bit more to make it happen, that we get another South African into the MotoGP paddock, Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP, because Roche Woodley no doubt has the talent, and it shouldn't just be up to the family to make that happen. It shouldn't be a Binder family situation where it's up to the Binders to get in there. Yes, Brad and Darren had a lot of support from a lot of people behind the scenes, but majority was done by the Binder family, and majority, 99%, I could be wrong, is being done by the Woodley family at the moment. Arushan and the family. The mom and the sister are at the races. They travel in the van around Europe together, week in, week out, going from CRV to Red Bull Rookies, and it's not easy. Yeah, we all think it's a glamorous life. It is when you're on the motorcycle and riding, but behind the scenes, it's not. It's hard, and it's punishing mentally, financially, on the family, and they're making it work. And I have massive amounts of respect for that family. They're kind of my role model family, to be honest. I've always wanted to be sound weird. I've always wanted to be a Woodley or a Binder, but I look up to those families for what they've done, the sacrifices that they've done. So yeah, Roche Woodley, well done, young man. We will get you on the show, and I'm gonna teach you how to become, a media professional, just how to talk to the press. But it's just little confidence. He's just naturally a shy guy. Arushan was the same. So yeah, but very excited at the prospect of Roche Woodley. The only sad thing with Roche is he's got to wait until he's 18 before he can get into that paddock now with the new rule. And by the time he's 18, he's going to Moto3 in 2 or 3 seasons time is going to be Yetis. It's going to be basketball players on tricycles, because you're going to have all these 18-year-olds, and with all the food and everything we eat today, 18-year-olds weren't like 18-year-olds back in my day. They taller than their dads, and beards, and it's crazy. So that's the only sad thing, is that Roche Woodley is only Roche Woodley realistically should be going to Moto3 next year. He's proven he's got the pace. I think there's a lot more great results coming this year, but he can't. He's got to wait until he's 18. So I think he's got to wait another 2 years potentially. I think he's 16 now, or 15. So yeah, that's the only disappointment. Let's see if someone else is sending me a message here. No, I want to try and act clever. Yamaha should recruit Davide Brivio. Yakudas, great comment there. Sure, great comment there. Yamaha should recruit Davide Brivio. Remember, Brivio was with the team. He was the big influence to bring Valentino Rossi over to Yamaha. Good call, Davide. Brilliant call. Davide, Yaku, great call. Love that. Augusto is proving to be the better Fernandez. Bevan Hope. I'm impressed with Augusto Fernandez. It's not easy coming into MotoGP, but he's getting along with the job. He's not throwing the bike into the weeds all the time. He's finished every single race this year. You know what? I'm impressed with Augusto Fernandez. Problem next year, Pedro Acosta is definitely going to go to MotoGP. KTM are now proving their worth. Pedro does not have to tell them to F off and go to a Ducati or a Honda or somewhere else. Well, Ducati's really his only other option. The KTM is a really good fit for Pedro Acosta. But the question is, will he be happy? Because the only place he can go is Tech 3 Gas, which is exactly the same bike as what Brad and Jack have. Maybe 1 or 2 sessions or 1 or 2 races delayed, but most of the time will be the same package. So Brad and Jack might get something new for that race weekend, but it will be available for the following weekend type thing. So that's the only argument now with Pedro Acosta. Is he now looking at this going, right, KTM are doing what I want them to do? Now, do I go into MotoGP on a Tech 3 gas in my rookie year, ins and outs, learn the ropes, get comfortable there, and then potentially move to the factory team in 2025, if there's a spot available with Brad and Jack doing so well? Or do I hop straight onto a Pramac Ducati, potentially in the place of Jorge Martin if he goes to Yamaha, or Zarco if he, leaves that spot open. There's another question now, because before this it was like, oh no, it's easy. Pedro Acosta's not going to go to an inconsistent KTM. Bugger off, he's going to go to a Ducati. They KTM pay well. You're looked after, and it's a great team environment at the moment. So, yeah. Mike Teal, hi Rob. Sorry, my grandson Liam Townsend and myself are a bit late. We are now here to hear your input on an amazing weekend. What excitement. We're still grinning from ear to ear since yesterday. Hello, Mike and grandson Leon. Thank you so much for joining us here. I know there would have been little people lost in translation, not on Facebook anymore, and YouTube. But from now on, every time I post a link, I'll put the YouTube link up on our Facebook. You just click on it, get a reminder, and it'll remind you to join in on the YouTube channel. Everyone go click the like button. It helps Rob's YouTube grow. They prioritize videos with likes. Stephen Berry, thank you so much. Yes, please do go hit the like button, share this as far and wide as possible. That is why I've gone to the YouTube, because potentially can just make a little bit of extra revenue out of it, to be honest. And I would love to do that. I would have loved to have been at Jerez this weekend, but finances, family commitments, which now always are the priority. Family comes first. But if we can start generating a little bit more income, I'd love to be at more races to do those proper paddock talks and an end. So thanks for that, Stephen, and thank you to everyone for joining once again. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: Formula One stewards and penalties. I've just spoken about that. Shanghai Rob. Is that your YouTube name, whoever you are? Shanghai Rob. Oh, I'm saying that terribly, I know I am, but that's what I'm seeing. Okay, Svengren. I like this. I like it when I see it. So, Svengren, I disagree, Rob. You don't see Brembo getting it wrong and brakes failing. Michelin needs to sort the tires, tarnish a bigger working window. To sort the tires, tonnage, a bigger working window. I understand what you're saying there, Sven, and I do. I am on the side of you guys where, listen, we speak about safety. The tires and the brakes are probably the two biggest safety elements, and they should be at the optimum working, rate at all times. And as you said, Brembo do a fantastic job at getting it right. To have that, Sven corrected himself a little bit later on. I should read all the messages first. I do, but as I said, I would hate to be a Michelin tire technician, because damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I do definitely understand what you're saying. So definitely, Sven. Stephen Berry, there's 260 people, 261 views, and 77 people have liked the video. So come on, people, like the video, like it and share it, Ray Hendy, how how challenged I am, Stephen, for F saying. Let's see. You can't tell a racer not to race. Exactly, Carlos. Exactly. You should be on the MRW payroll by now. That's you, Stephen. If we get all gazillion likes and the 50 gazillion views that these toy YouTubers get, then I'll pay all of you. I'll give all of you money. That's for sure. Mike Voblololelesles, I read an article years ago about how Brad Lackey won the MX championship in 82. Maybe Darren should read it. Basically says takes the points and come back and fight another day. Mike, that's pretty much the message that Darren knows, and we're all telling him. There's no doubt about that. But as I said, Darren's biggest asset, that never say die, full out commitment, is sometimes his biggest downfall. So he just needs to find the in between, and I'm sure it's coming. I always feel like there's something big coming with Darren Binder. There is, and I believe it's in Moto 2. I think, I'm a firm believer things happen for a reason. He was meant to go to MotoGP to get some kind of experience, and that whole experience, and let it happen. He was meant to come into this Moto 2 team that's chased him for the last couple of years, and it's never quite fitted. It's now fitted, and I think he's on the verge of something big. But yes, he does need to, within himself, make those one or two little tweaks. Yes, I agree. Professional vehicle buffing and nano coating, just to give you a little boost. Do you think that the KTM will work at other circuits? I know longer straights favor the Ducati. Professional vehicle buffing and nano coatings, I think they do. I think, as Jonathan said, Jerez is a good kind of indication of where your package is. The Ducati looked, the KTM looked fast to me. It was fast at Argentina. I think the engine is fast. They just weren't able to get it the power to the ground and out as good as some of the other, certainly the Ducatis. From what I saw this weekend, it looked like a really good all-round package. Still in some of the Foster corners, certainly where Pecco lined up Brad, in those Foster corners where you're carrying the momentum and you've got to get the bike over, it looked like it's still a little bit sluggish compared to the Ducati. That's a bit more, fluent, I think is a word I could maybe use there. And that has been a problem in the past. Brad's complained about, especially when you're on the side of the tire, getting the bike in and just, missing that apex by a millimeter. And when you at that speed and at that momentum, a millimeter can make a big difference. And that's where Pecco on the Ducati took full advantage in those fast right-handers, lined it up for the braking into the final corner. The Ducati just looked like it was, the more fluent bike through there compared to the KTM. So I think in one area that they may be still battling a little bit is there. Red Bull Ring, they've always kind of performed. They've always done well there because, their bike was tested a lot there. Bike was almost built around there. It's their home track. I think they'll do well there. Yeah, I don't see tracks. I don't see tracks that they'll potentially suffer at. I think there'll be tracks where some of the other bikes will go faster on newer tires, if you know what I mean. Being able to utilize and get more out of the soft tire, so more of the Ducati riders will be faster. Potentially a Fabio on a Yamaha, potentially a Marc Marquez on a Honda if he comes back, and Oliveira on the Aprilias. So I think there will be races where some others will set faster qualifying times, which will push the KTMs back a little bit more because they won't get the full benefit or as much benefit out of a soft tire. But in overall race pace, I think they've got a weapon. I think they've got a Sunday race day weapon, and they proved in Jerez that they've got a qualifying weapon. Yeah, the qualifying was look up and down, mixed conditions, and Jack and Brad took full advantage of that. But the positive sign for KTM, another massive positive, was everyone ran medium front, medium rear. And when the first graphic came up, Brad was on a hard front, and I thought, oh God, no. Jerez is start, stop, full front end commitment so early in the lap. Do you want to go that option to wait for the tire to kind of build up heat? And then when they said, no, everyone's changed to medium front, medium rear, I was like, oh, thank goodness. And KTM competed on the exact same tire everyone else was on. Before they've had to go hard when everyone else was able to go medium or soft, or they've never been able to be on the same kind of tire. And KTM in the past, when everyone else had to go hard front and medium rear, they were able to compete. And now they've competed on the same tire. So yeah, that was a real benefit. And yeah, I think they're doing. I think they've got it. I think they've got it. Raul battling with arm pump, might have surgery. Yeah, let's see. I know Razlan and the team were saying that, but I think it's more than arm pump. To be honest, that's my personal opinion. I think mentally, Raul Fernandez is just not built for MotoGP, just like Remy Gardner wasn't. So yeah. John Fernandez, watch the short clip on Cam Peterson. Worth watching to see the tough life that a bike racer has. Daz is my hero. Love him. He goes for it every time, and he gets on the bike. John, yeah, I agree with you, and especially coming from South Africa, it's so much harder. It is just so much harder. There's hardly any government support, if any. There's not a lot of support from motorsport, the federation, if any. It's pretty much you against the world. That's how it is. Certainly in the case of Cam Peterson, that story, and I know because, I've been right in the middle where, I've had emails and messages and calls about, Robbie Peterson and Cam Peterson and them just, let's pack it up and let's go work in bike shops. And, we gave it a good go. We've got to now stop this. And that same conversation was mentioned with Darren a couple of years ago, before he got the Petronas Moto3 ride. It was like, well, we can't just keep forking out money, and it's got to get to the point where we have to rethink this. And thank goodness it's played out the way it has, but it really hasn't been an easy road. None more so, none more harder than the Sheridan Moraes story. Thankfully the Binders did have the financial backing that they could make it work, but at the same time they put everything into it. There was they put everything into it, and if it didn't work, I don't want to even go down that route, but Sheridan didn't have that kind of financial backing. He had to rely on a lot of support, and he had to take these dodgy, horrible rides that were never going to make him anything and try and make the best of them. So South African riders they are tough as anything, and that's why I've always made it my life goal to support them as much as I can, whether it be with social media posts, with whatever I can. The meet and greets that we do, the live interviews, just to try and give them as much publicity. If you look at Motor Rider World, we support South African riders more than any other South African motorcycle media. I know some try, but they copy and paste what we do, which is annoying, but it's a pat on the back in many ways, because we are the leader and we are at the forefront. Some lead, some follows, and we are the leaders when it comes to motorcycle media, especially motorcycle media in South Africa at the moment. So very proud of that. Also been through a lot of hard work, dedication, financial restraints, financial commitment, family commitment. It hasn't been easy to get where we are, but if I see the amount of support that we get on social media and with these shows, it just feels like it's paying off. So yeah, very, very happy. Stephen May, Rob, get Miguel Oliveira on a live chat. I think he needs a nice surprise. We'll pick up his spirits. Stephen, I will do just that. You know what? He's got some time off now, sadly. I'll do just that. I'll drop a message to Maria, the PR lady from the RNF Aprilia team. I nearly said RNF Yamaha. She's fantastic. She's also the PR lady for the Bonovo BMW team. That's how I got Loris Baz and Girl off those interviews that I put on our YouTube channel. So yeah, very good idea. Very, 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 very good idea. Just scrolling down here now. I think we've pretty much touched upon everything. There's a lot of comments to catch up on there. I know Sven, Stephen, and Jonathan have done well to kind of update you guys on what I've missed, and everyone else with your comments, the Mariska Hutchinsons, the Nicole Briats, the Daryl Bryces, the everyone's. You're all, we're all just fans, pundits. Yeah, we all just love the sport so much, and there's a lot to go through here, and it's almost coming on 2 hours now. And the sun has finally gone down here in the UK, believe it or not. Only just, still kind of light, still a little bit of light there, but yeah, school tomorrow. So going to make sure the kiddies are going to be in bed now. Nice bath, teeth brushed, and get to bed. But yeah, thanks to everyone for the comments down the side. Thanks to everyone for the support. Do as Stephen, listen to Stephen. You go like and share this video as far and wide as you possibly can, so that I can make millions, so that I can give you all money, and we can all go to MotoGPs. And you know what? If I make that kind of money that these toy review channels do, I will send one of you to a MotoGP round, all expenses paid. I'll rotate you all for the next however many years that we make money. I'll send you all to MotoGP races, and that's a big statement, and I'm going to have to stick to my word if we do get the 50 gazillion views. But yeah, if I'm making that kind of money, I will happily pay for all of you to go and experience MotoGP the way that I do. In the pits, side of the trackside access, in the media debrief, all of it. So yeah, I would love to watch that, Trevor and Sharon, like the Moto PG guys did with the Millers. Stephen, what is that you're talking about? What, do an interview with, even though getting Trevor Binder on the show, Andrew Nicole. You can get Trevor Binder on the show, but you'll need Sharon with him, because Sharon is the voice of Trevor. So whenever I message Trevor like, well done, or damn this. And I know when it's Trevor replying, because when Trevor replies, it's yes, thank you, damn it, F. Yeah, Trevor's very reserved when it comes to messaging. When you're face to face with Trevor, it's a different story. But then when I get a message, hey Rob, thanks so much for the message. Yes, it was a great. I know. Well, thanks Sharon. Thanks for that nice reply. Thank you, Sharon. Sharon's replies are a little bit more invested than Trevor's. But yeah, we'll do a let's try and do a racing family podcast. We'll get the Binders on, we'll get the Woodleys on, try and get the Petersons on, although I've tried to get Cam Peterson and Matthew Skoltz for years now, and I love them. I love them, and Brad's getting to that point as well now where I love them, but they just are so hard. They are just so hard to get on these shows, and I understand because of their commitments with other media, training. It's exhausting for them. So to come and speak to old Uncle Rob all the time is not easy. But I'll keep trying. I will keep trying, and hopefully we can get them on. But yeah, I like the idea of Miguel Oliveira. I love the idea of the Binders, Trevor and Sharon. We can talk about, see if we can pull some life stories out of them on the journey to where they've been. The Petersons will be great. The Woodleys will be great. I'll definitely get Ruche on sometime. So yeah, we've heard, a lot of stories from Sheridan, and hopefully he'll be back for the next show after Le Mans. It'll be great to hear from Shez at Le Mans because he's done a couple of 24 hours there. He knows the track. He'll have a lot of great information there. So yeah, let's see. Listen, I always do try, even like the Johnny Ray one, I really tried to make it a live show, but the sad reality is to get these guys for an hour or so on a live show is not going to happen. You get them for 20 minutes and it's got to be a pre-recorded show. Most of the time you've got to kind of not submit your questions, but I think they like it pre-recorded, because if there's something that's been said that they don't like, it's what, stop there, cut, start again type thing. So anyway, listen, all I can tell you is that on top of everything else that I do here in the UK, which is not easy, the full-time job commitment that I've got here, this has become a side project for me. My brother Sean Portman and the team from Beam Productions pretty much run the general media side. Back in South Africa, I just add in my 2 cents where I can, and then the show and stuff. But I'm definitely working hard at getting as many of these guys as possible, and I'll definitely try and get this guy soon. It's hard now when there's not much break in between races. When there's a little bit of a break, I'll drop a phone call and a message again and say, please, Uncle Brad. I'm going to start calling him. Please, Uncle Brad. The viewers want to hear from you, man. Even just for half an hour, 45 minutes. Please, man. Please. So yeah, I'll carry on trying. But again, thank you everyone for joining in. I really appreciate it. I love the comments. I love all the information. I love the fact that we all just love talking MotoGP, and we'll just keep on doing it live Monday, straight after the race weekends. If not, it'll always be the Tuesday afterwards. No Ganod's Brai, Red Bull Ring, Francois Coetzee. No, I like that. I like Corsi Sigeleli, Brad Binder. Thanks for a great show, everyone. Really appreciate it. Stephen, really appreciate your help. Jonathan Borg, Sven Gruner, Mariska, everyone that just gets involved. I just absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Have a great week further. Stay safe, stay healthy. Please, it's a tough world out there. I know that. Just stay healthy. If you need to talk, drop me a message. I will always find time to happily talk to as many of you as I possibly can. And yeah, until next time. See you later. Goodbye. Love you all. Goodbye. Thank you all. Goodbye.